Hi everyone, welcome to Bonnie Carolee Makes Cards. With the international mail moving so slowly, I thought I received my kit too late to make fall cards. We had a flash of winter, but it has subsided and autumn is upon us again. And that makes me very happy for many reasons, one of which is it puts me in the mood for making a fall card. I have seen a number of people using patterned paper to put their cards together with this stamp set, and I was inspired to do the same, even though I don't really use patterned papers very often. So let's get started. What I like about receiving the pattern papers in the kits is everything is coordinated and you really don't have to put a lot of thought and effort into what goes with what. The cards will be an A2 size and in a portrait configuration, so I trim my pattern papers down to 4 1/4 inches wide. Simon Says Stamps stitched slopes and hills dies are used to create 2 different hillsides. Once I have my hillsides trimmed down to the right size and stacked on their background, my favorite thing, stitched rectangle, the second largest die, is used to cut all 3 papers together. Die cutting the 3 at once is not a problem because the paper is of lighter weight. Both of the hillsides for all 3 cards is backed on white sheet foam, giving it nice dimension. When the excess foam is trimmed off, all 3 card backgrounds are put together. I use the weight of my MISTI to ensure that all the layers are adhering well together. To begin my first card, I lay out the elements on my background. All of the images are stamped with Versamark ink on Neenah Desert Storm Craft cardstock. The bear and the 2 trees are also stamped on patterned paper. Everything is embossed with copper embossing powder. The sentiment, "You're the apple of my eye," is embossed directly on the panel, also in the copper embossing powder. The sentiment is embossed 2 times, giving the words a nice puffy dimensional appearance. This helps it really stand out from that patterned background. Next, I do some simple coloring using zig markers. I'm very careful with the water as I pull the color to create some highlights and blend colors together, as the craft paper cannot withstand a lot of moisture. Because I'm using the patterned paper for both the sweater and the treetops, there's not a lot of coloring to do. Once everything is colored, I then start fussy cutting. The bear sweater and the treetops stamped on the patterned paper are trimmed out first. The cutting is right along the embossed lines. Because the images have very simple outlines, this is easy to do. I first attach the patterned paper pieces before cutting out the main images. I really anticipated that all of this fussy cutting was going to take quite a bit of time, but as I mentioned before, because the outline of these images is very simple, it actually goes very quickly. Before finishing up the first card, I decided to do all of the elements for the second and third cards. The images were stamped on Bristol Smooth cardstock with VersaFine ink, and then embossed with clear embossing powder. As with the first card, all of the images where there was not going to be any patterned paper were colored with zig markers. Because I was working on Bristol Smooth cardstock and it can withstand some water, I did not have to take the same level of care as I did working on the craft cardstock. The bear sweater, the owl scarf, and the treetops were trimmed out from the embossed images on the patterned paper. Everything was put together in exactly the same way as the craft card. The patterned paper was glued to the images before fussy cutting them. The sentiments for both of these cards were stamped with VersaFine ink. This ink can take a while to dry, and so it is a good choice for clear embossing. The result looks like black embossed lines, but with a much cleaner look. No specks of black here and there. After all the images are fussy cut, it's time to put all 3 cards together. Cardstock is chosen to coordinate with the 3 cards. It is trimmed down so that when it is attached to an A2 size card base, it'll leave an 1/8 of an inch border. The patterned background panels are then attached. The elements are laid out before adhering them. Because the hillsides were foam backed and have dimension, the elements were glued to where they attached directly to the hills, and on the overhang, foam squares were used. To finish up the cards, Nuvo drops were used to accent a few things. White drops were used on the mushrooms, and one of the bear sweaters was given black buttons. On the copper embossed craft card, the bear's eyes were also highlighted with black Nuvo drops. The heart in the Happy Fall Y'all sentiment was highlighted with Nuvo glitter drops white blizzard. And that wraps up my take on patterned paper cards featuring Simon Says Stamps October Card Kit of the Month. I adore the sweet images found in the Happy Fall Y'all stamp set that was included with this card kit. As always, I appreciate your visit.